Today I'm going to show you how to make a pivot table. The first thing you're going to want to do is download the data that you need from the platform of your choice. For this example, we've downloaded data from Google Ads. Once you have this data up, you'll want to clean up the areas so that it's just the data that you want to put in the pivot table. We're going to delete these first two rows here because they aren't necessary for the table, and then also all of the total rows at the bottom aren't necessary for the table either. So we'll go ahead and highlight all those rows and click delete. The next step would be to select all the data from this table. We can do this either by clicking and dragging all the way to the ends, or we can click the top left, click Shift Control, and then the down arrow and the right arrow, and all the data will be selected. The next step would be to click Insert and then Pivot Table. You'll see this window pop up and it'll show the range of data you've selected and then whether you want to put it on a new worksheet or this same worksheet. We're going to put this one on a new worksheet and we'll click OK. As you'll see, a new tab comes up and your pivot table area is right here. Now we want to build a pivot table. For this example, we're going to be looking at the stats for different campaigns from this client. So we're going to drag campaign down into the rows because each of these campaigns is what we want to see data for. Next, we want to create columns that will show the different metrics for each one of these campaigns. To do this, we're going to want to take the metrics we are looking for. So let's start with impressions. And we're going to click and drag from the fields down into values, not columns. So once we drag that to values, it'll pop up right here. And it will show the impressions for each one of these campaigns. Now another common stat that we want to look at would be clicks. So I'll click and drag that down to the other side of impressions. Now, if we want to look at the click-through rate, which is clicks divided by impressions, we'll want to use a calculated field for this, as selecting it from the field list leads to some inaccuracies. So next we'll click Fields, Items, and Sets, Calculated Field, and then this window will pop up. So we're going to name this field the click-through rate. And then we'll want to put the formula right here. So what we'll do is we'll find the different data that we need. So this would be clicks. We'll double click that. And then we'll do divided by. And then we'll click impressions. And we'll click OK. And that will pop up right here. Now we'll continue adding the different values we need. So we can add in cost. And put that at the end. And again, we can calculate a new field if we want to look at the cost per click, since that's calculated. So we'll click Calculated Field, we'll type in cost per click, and then we'll add in the necessary metrics. So that would be cost, double click that, divided by impressions. Where is that at? Here we go. And click OK. Now I'm going to keep adding in all the different areas we need. So conversions would be another important one. And then cost per conversion would be another calculated field, so we'll practice with that. So we'll type in cost per conversion, and then we'll type in, or we'll select cost divided by the number of conversions. We'll do one more calculated field to practice. So we want to find the conversion rate. So go to calculated field, type in conversion rate, and then make the formula, which is the conversions divided by clicks. So here you'll see we have lots of different data points in our pivot table. We can add in any different combination of different columns as you see fit for your client. For this example, we'll keep these right here. What we want to do is we want to make sure each one of these values is a sum. It looks like right here they all formatted as sums, but sometimes they will format as count. And if that happens, we'll want to make sure we double click, go into value field settings, and then change it from count to sum. Another thing we want to do in this window is just change the name so that it looks more formatted. So instead of sum of impressions, we'll write impressions. And click OK. Same thing for clicks, we'll double click. We'll get rid of sum of so that it just says clicks. What you'll see for some data points is that the pivot table name already exists. So clicks already exists as a column in the data. So what we'll want to do is just add a space at the end so that it finds it as a different name, but it still says just clicks. So we'll want to do this for each one of the values so that the formatting looks professional and clean. So let's keep going, get rid of that, making sure they all say sum and not count because the data will be off. Okay, let's see. So you want to add a space at the end. Perfect. Another thing you want to format is just the row labels. So since these are each representing a campaign, we'll type in campaign name. Great. So right here we have a decent looking pivot table, but we want to do some more formatting here. We want to make sure all these numbers are formatted so that they look a bit better. To do this, we'll highlight that column and we'll go to this area right here, and this helps us format the numbers. So for impressions, we'll want to click on the comma style so that you'll see the number a little bit more neat. We don't really need to see these decimals, so we can click over here and get rid of those. Same thing can go for clicks. Now for click-through rate, this is a percentage, so we'll simply just click the percentage sign. We may want to see the decimals for this one, so we'll add those in for this example. Cost, of course, is a number with a dollar sign. Cost per click is also a monetary amount. Conversions looks good. Cost per conversion again is a dollar amount, and then conversion rate, a percentage, and we want to see some decimals here too. So the pivot table is already looking a lot better. One thing we want to do next is just make the pivot table look a little bit better in terms of the design. So we'll click into the pivot table. As you can see, if you click out, you won't have these pivot table options, but as soon as you click into the pivot table, you'll see Analyze and Design. Analyze is where we created the fields and the calculated fields. But if we go to Design, we can select some better looking designs for the pivot table. So for this example, we're just going to click on this simple one, but it looks a lot better. Another thing we can do is bold the top row, and we'll go to Home and Bold. And another thing that looks good as well when making reporting tables is going to View and then deselecting grid lines. And then to create more of an outline for this table itself, we'll highlight the entire table, go over to Home and then to the borders and just create an outside border. Now to make this table look even better, we'll want to format the top headers. So we'll add in a couple rows here. So to add in rows, you just select these two up top. We'll select Insert and then Sheet Rows. We could do this a few times to give us enough room up here. Some things that look really good would be to add in colors. So we'll select this area and we'll make it a dark blue. And then we'll select some rows here as well and we'll make these black. This is really up to you how you want to design this, but it looks really good having the coordinating colors with Perfect Search. Now I want a little bit more of room up here, so we'll click this row and we'll just insert one more and it'll continue the color. So something we can do as well is we can highlight this area and then click Merge and Center so that it's all one big box. One thing that's really important to have on your pivot table is the date range that the data is for. So for this table, the date range is April 1st through 23rd. Of course you can't see it, so what you'll want to do is highlight that and make it white so that it's visible, and bold and make it larger. Next, we'll want to add in different names like the client name up here. So for this, we'll type in the client name. And again, format that so it looks a bit better. Another thing we can do as well is add in the Perfect Search logo over here, and add in any other named fields that you think would look good and would apply to your table up in this area. This is just an example, so it's not quite exactly what it would look like, but it does show the ways that you can kind of decorate the header to make it look a little bit more professional. And this is how you make a pivot table.